something else related to kind of like inequalities that can potentially be resolved via VR. I'd love this, the kind of reskilling and education examples that you just
Mhm,
gave. But there's an interesting thing that we dug up in our research, which is that VR headsets
mhm,
were causing nausea in women at
mhm,
unusually high rates. And so
mhm,
it looks like you made a discovery that allowed hardware, VR headsets, which were probably predominantly designed by men,
mhm.
to have the hardware actually change. So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Yeah, and so when I started, creating a lot of these experiences, like we'll go to trade shows and I would notice, or we even do demo. Like I remember doing a demo at Universal Music, and I'm not going to mention which headset we were using, but the minute some of the managers in there put it on, like most of the women will run into the bathroom and just start throwing up. And I
Wow.
knew exactly why because I was feeling that same way. So I started researching why we were having, these issues with a lot of the VR headsets. And what I discovered was that most of the VR headsets, of course, they were designed, most of them were designed by men. And so they weren't experiencing this because there was no way for them to know. But there is a difference between the IPD, the interpupillary distance for men and women. And most of them, our upper limit doesn't even, it's not even on the range for men for their lower limit. So what was happening is most of these VR headsets were designed with a lower limit of men, which is the upper limit for women, or sometimes outside the range of the upper limit. And so as you wore the headset, your eyeballs were being pulled apart, and that strain was causing, a lot of headaches. And then on top of it, there are different ways in which men and women process the world, right? So you have what's called motion parallax, and then you also have shape by shading. And women process differently than men. When you talk about motion parallax, you are actual size matters for men. So you look at the size of an object, and then that informs the brain how far or close you are to that object. Your depth, sense of depth, is determined by the size, whereas for women, it's the detail. So, so the way the content was being rendered itself were not very natural for us to consume. So, but there were a lot of different factors, but these were like two of the main ones. And so I created a VR headset which resolves all of that. And then also on our platform, we use predictive rendering, and we ensure that we're combining techniques to make sure that the content is rendering in a way that's comfortable for everyone. And then there was also, a lot of other factors that were going on. Yeah.